Welcome to the Choose Better podcast. I'm Erica Day, and this is where I tell Black women the truth so that we can all choose better in every area of our lives. Welcome to the Choose Better podcast. I'm Erica Day, and this is where I tell Black women the truth so that we can all choose better in every area of our lives. Welcome back. Now, I feel like I have to say this in every episode, but I'm going to keep saying it. I'm speaking in general when I discuss these topics. I myself avoided marrying a Naker, and there is reciprocity in this relationship, and I know that other women have the same thing going on, but that's not the general situation among Black women. So if you want to engage with me and leave a comment, please don't start with not all. I'm going to ignore those. All right, so what are we talking about today? Hard truths, reciprocity, and vetting. Hard truth number one. Nakerville thrives because we as Black women support it. Yes, we support it. We support this culture that views women as objects to be used and does not value us at all. We place the culture above our own lives and our own happiness. We coddle our sons and raise our daughters. This continues the cycle of weak-minded men and quote-unquote strong Black women. For the most part, we stay loyal to the Black male collective and refuse to date or marry any other race, while Nakers have never afforded us that same loyalty. We sit up here pinning all of our hopes and dreams on finding our Kang someday as we get older and older. And some of us get more bitter every passing day. The cry of, I'm not going to give up on my Black men, is the cry of a woman who lives her whole life based on the lies of the collective, rather than making life decisions that enable her to have the best life she can this side of heaven. We grade men on a curve, refusing to hold them accountable for meeting even a minimal standard of behavior, and we allow them to have access to our minds and bodies. Whenever Nakers are criticized, we jump up and fight for them, even when we know the criticism is valid. We give them gold stars for doing basic things that all men should do. We refuse to take accountability for the part we play in our own suffering, always treating the Nakers who have continually hurt us as exceptions to the good Black man population. We continue to allow them access to our wombs without marriage and continue the cycle of fatherless children and broken homes. We go through all this in the name of hashtag Black love, which is really hashtag struggle love. We constantly define our worth on the basis of men desiring us and being interested in us. We refuse to confront the hard truths that are necessary to wake us out of this delusional stupor. I will never let it be said that I didn't speak out against this foolishness. So sis, if you choose to ignore the truth, you have no one to blame but yourself. We zoom right on past enormous red flags. We rarely, if ever, demand reciprocity. Reciprocity is the practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit. Again, for mutual benefit. Nakerville norms only benefit Nakers. Nakers are not looking to exchange things to benefit you as well as them. They only want to benefit themselves. So the hard truth here is, Nakers never fight for us. In fact, they are the very people who are super critical of everything Black women do. They don't ever grade on a curve. In fact, if you just do a YouTube search, you'll see the men who make a living denigrating us at every opportunity. They call themselves the manosphere. I'm not going to mention their names because they don't deserve that much attention. But in order to do your research, you can start with who I call Satan in a suit, Kitty Samuels. If you don't know his name from what I just said, I don't know what to tell you. You will also see how many followers they have, and the comments will show you what they really think of us. Now, you may be inclined to dismiss these as men you don't know, but girl, believe me, even the men that you do know get involved in this stuff. They just keep quiet about it. That leads me to the next hard truth. All men need to be vetted. Now, what is vetting? It's defined as the process of carefully and critically evaluating something. As a collector, ladies, we don't do that. We meet a man, like him, think he's cute, got a nice car, maybe he has a job, maybe not. We decide he seems decent, and if he doesn't do anything outwardly horrible, we move in with him, have children with him, and maybe marry him. And all that foolishness doesn't come out until we are stuck. We need to have some basic universal standards when it comes to men. Now, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was stuck in the same way of thinking that a lot of us are stuck in, just because of the culture, the way we were raised. I remember saying, in order for me to date a white man, he has to have movie star good looks, money, a nice body, a great job, a house, a car, etc. But a black man just has to be black. Hashtag facepalm. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and date white men. That's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you to not limit yourself so that you can have the best life you can possibly have. Now, Lord knows I was stupid. And I'm glad that my stupidity did not affect me too much. It didn't ruin my life. I'm glad I outgrew that way of thinking. The problem is, though, as a whole, we have not. We think we have to maintain some kind of loyalty to black men and the black race as a whole. We think that having standards makes us too picky because that's what Nagerville taught us. And listen, there are a lot of good-looking black men out there, but everything that looks good ain't. Did you hear me? Everything that looks good ain't. And you know what? You should be picky about who you date and marry and have children with. So while we are being race warriors and giving our time, resources, and love to the race, niggers willfully pursue other races of women as often as they can. Oh, they'll have sex with us and create babies they didn't want, but that's about it. They date and marry whoever they want. And listen, I'm not complaining about that. That's their right. Everyone has that right. Everyone says you have that right. But what happens when we exercise it? We're called bedwenches, coons, and sellouts. Nakers are out here talking about our women are dating other races. Here's the next hard truth. You as an individual, sis, and black women as a whole do not belong to any group of men. We are free to choose our mates just as anyone else is. We have allowed nakers and their handmaidens to guilt us into remaining loyal to the community at the expense of our own happiness and, for a lot of us, our very lives. Side note, did you know that over 700 black women have been murdered since January 2021? Check out Black Femicide US on Facebook. Do a search, go to their page. They post so many stories of what's happening to black women in the United States. Okay, back to the topic. Here's another hard truth. You do not have to, quote unquote, give a brother a chance or, quote unquote, help him be a man. Vet every last one of them. And if they don't measure up to your standards, keep walking. Your life depends on it. If you haven't already, I would certainly appreciate if you would subscribe to the podcast and even leave a review so that I know what you guys want to hear. Thank you. Let's recap. Nagerville strongly discourages the following. So to escape from its clutches, we have to, number one, have some hashtag standards and stipulations when it comes to relationships. Number two, we must vet all men according to those standards. Number three, we must demand reciprocity. We must be adamant about walking away from any man that does not meet our standards, and also willing to walk away from non-reciprocal relationships of any kind. So for this week's Choose Better Challenge, share the standards you have for dating and relationships. If you have never thought about this, do it now. Write those standards out. Put them up where you can see them every day. Examine your past relationships or even your current one. Are you settling just to say you have a man? Are you living below your standards? Share whatever you're comfortable with sharing with the hashtag Choose Better Challenge. You can reach out to me on my Facebook page, Choose Better Podcast, Instagram, Choose Better Podcast. Follow me on Clubhouse at Choose Better Podcast. Twitter is at Choose Better Sis. You can also email me at hello@choosebetterpodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back next week. And until then, remember, sis, choose better. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Choose Better podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to it. To engage with me further, please go to my website, www.choosebetterpodcast.com, where you can leave a review, sign up to be part of the Choose Better squad, or even leave me a voicemail. You can also find me on social media. My Facebook page is Choose Better Podcast. Instagram, Choose Better Podcast. On Twitter, it's at Choose Better Sis. Again, thanks for joining me for this episode. Until next week, always be looking for ways to choose better.